Welcome, everyone, to the inaugural podcast of Brazosport College, where we're going to discuss all things BC related. We know that the conversations are going to bite deep and that we are going to have lots of fun navigating the waters of information, knowledge, and everything related to the college. Today with us, we have two very important team members who actually made the podcast in the podcast room possible. So we're introducing Mr. Phil Roche, who is the director of the library, and Mr. Brian Commons, who's our Chief Information Officer. Gentlemen, welcome so much to the inaugural podcast. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Solis. And also, while you have me on the spot here, Brian and his team get most of the credit for this. I kind of hung around and would say, that looks good, or let's try that.
Well,
so,
I'll tell you what.
He provided a lot of input, though.
Yeah, a lot of input, a lot of feedback.
Wow.
You know, so we're here today talking all things BC related, and let's talk a little bit about this idea. So we discussed this for a while. And like I said, I've said this before, as a college president, as the host of this show, it's easy for me to come up with a crazy idea, but the people that really make it happen are the people that have the technical skills, the know-how, people that can bring the vision forward. Brian, you and your team were instrumental in this. Phil, you and your team were also instrumental. So what got us to this point, and how did you turn an idea into something that is now tangible and ready to go?
Well, we took this, and like I said, it was your idea. We took this and we really ran with it, you know, put ideas together, things we had been working on, things we had already, you know, I have great staff that comes up with ideas constantly of how to do, what's the best way to do this? What's the best way to do that? We're always, you know, being asked by anybody here on campus, well, how can we do this thing? How can we demonstrate this, or how can we show this? And so we put these ideas together, and our team, Aiden and Brian Benigno, did a lot of work on this, putting this together, getting equipment ordered, testing, you know, really trying and having lots of trials, having, you know, lots of opinions about how it should look and how it should
Brian,
act.
we talk about some of these items, and in my head, it was something as simple as a flashlight and a phone that was going to get us to this podcast. And then when they said, hey, come check out what we're thinking, we've cleared out some space in one of the rooms, I come down here and I'm like, holy cow, this is really happening. This is going to be great. And can't thank you and your team enough. Phil, let me start off with you on, you know, we discussed a lot about some of the things that we'd be covering as a knowledge base for information that flows out into the community from all things BC. So tell us a little bit about your perspective about this project and how we got to where we're at.
Great question. Thank you, Dr. Solis. Well, for me, from my angle, I feel like I was a cog in the wheel, right? Because it was a team effort to come along and do this, right? So IT had a massive impact, like Brian said. Marketing, I think you and I both, we were very pleasantly surprised when we walked in here and saw the Chomp Talk banner and saw the soundproof walls come up and the equipment coming up and things like that. You know, I started off in a small way. This was my space that I oversaw when Learning Services was over here. And I think that was the original, was like, hey, it's here and it's adjacent to the library. I guess I'll briefly sum it up in that what I really look forward to moving on in the future with this is that this kind of operation could be located in the library space. So these kinds of things could be developed over in our space, and students could actually create their own podcasts in our space in a very visible environment.
So let's talk a little bit about that from both sides, from the technical perspective, because we want to make this as easy and simple to use, not only by our students, by our faculty, by our administrators. We also want the community to come out and use these kinds of facilities. And this is a pilot, but something that we envision proliferating on campus with the library, or what we call an active learning center.
Active learning
thanks
space,
to your vision of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
This active learning center where community, students, faculty, staff can come out and actually have access to state-of-the-art equipment to produce information in the age of information.
So we want to make about that one-button concept too, if you don't mind my interrupting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's key that we, as we gravitate towards that. And Brian, I know you know more about the technology. But can we get to that place where someone could come in, check out the space, and say, click the button, and go, I can do this now, and then I can produce this thing.
Yeah, make it as easy as possible.
We want to make this.
Talk about that?
We've been looking at it. I know there are facilities out there that have something very similar to that. So, you know, our plan with that is try this for a while. Let's see how this works to get our, you know, our self used to this. And then during the master plan is we really want to move forward with working with vendors. You know, I've already talked with our facilities folks who have talked to other districts and works with contractors and stuff a lot on the construction side. But to see who out there has helped put these together, and let's work with them. to do this one button, push button and start this thing and make this as easy so that people can come in. Because not only do we want to be able to let the community and all those folks come in, but we want to make it easier on us, and we want to make it easier on our staff too. I don't want to have staff always having to be here for this. We want to make this so that they can use it. But they can come to us, obviously, if they have questions or need some assistance. But, the easier it is, the more likely it is to get used.
Yeah. So for our community that's listening, part of the vision is that we want to make sure that BC continues to be at the center and at the hub of all things knowledge and information related.
Sure.
We want to not only provide all the learning spaces, but we want to provide spaces like this podcast room that are available to the community so that they can come out and produce really great, high-quality content. We want our business leaders coming out to use these facilities. We want to make sure that we continue to remain a leader in all things education and resource related that helps move our community forward. I've got a little bit of a question, and we're going to cover lots of different topics on this inaugural podcast, but one of the things that I want to do with the messaging is I want the community, our staff, our students, people that work with our faculty day in and day out to kind of get an understanding of the quality of not only our programs, but the exceptional quality of the team members that make things happen at the institution. I want to hear a little bit about what brought you both to BC, how long you've been here, a little bit about your personal journeys, and then we're going to cover some things related to technology, which is always changing, and we're going to talk about this concept and vision that you have, Phil, for the library called an Active Learning Center. So with that, Brian, tell us a little bit about what got you to your current leadership position on campus. Everything technology goes through you. You've been on campus, it sounds like 200 years almost, so you grew up here. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
I did. So I did start here. So I'm new to this role, but not new to this school. I've been started here as a student actually in 1992. So I came here and was working here, going to school here, trying to figure out kind of what I wanted to do. And so I was taking some computer classes, my basics, doing those things. Sitting in the lab one day working, and actually at that time the computer technician walked in and saw me working. He just kind of walked up to me and said, "You want a job?" I said, "Sure." So
times are different.
So I started my journey there as a student assistant, actually here at the college for about a year, working in IT, and it just. Once I became full-time, just have done a little bit of everything in this department and have enjoyed all of it so much and so much. So it's always so different. It changes so much, so fast, sometimes a little too fast, but it changes a lot. And so I've just, gone up through the years practicing different things. I went off, got a bachelor's degree while still working here. To prepare myself to come up, years ago, I started saying, I want to be at the top. I want to be the one that helps make the decisions here for the technology and really leads the technology department. And so just worked on that until, and then it came available in December when my predecessor retired. So it allowed me to step into this role. And I'm really excited to take this on and keep moving this school forward, especially right now. It seems like things are, and the whole time I've been here, things are changing more and quicker right now than they probably have in any time I've been here at this school.
It's not related to a crazy president that you have, right?
Not at all.
Well, Brian, I do want to thank you for all your years of service, and congratulations on reaching that pinnacle of becoming the Chief Information Officer. I count on you, the college count on you for so much with all things related to technology. I think that one of the most ironic things in the world is that I preach technology. I love AI. I love all things technology related, but I can't do a single thing without you guys. The minute that my technology it freezes, I panic, and I'm calling you. And
those texts on Saturday morning.
On Saturday morning this weekend, I was like, hey, I'm having some issues.
Wait, we offer Saturday morning tech support now? That's awesome.
To limited support.
To limited support, yeah.
Okay.
Phil, let's hear about you. What's your journey? How'd you get to BC and your background with library services?
That's an interesting question right now, Dr. Solis. I as I recall, a week from today, I believe it is. Today's the 9th, isn't it? A week from today will be my 33 years as an academic librarian. So I've been in this game for a long time.
Service.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Kind of fell into the profession through a number of fortuitous things going on in my life. But I've been here at BC since August of 2021. Inherited a good group of folks in the library and learning services. Have enjoyed working with the people here on campus. And one of the things about BC that I'll always say that is my favorite thing is the people, right? There's good people here in this community and on this campus. And so because of that resource, I feel like this idea of an active learning space, which would be ideal for our students and our community members, can come together.
Just kind of, just to interrupt just a little bit, Tell us, elaborate a little bit more on that, because you and I have had a lot of discussions. So your idea, your vision,
I
what
can't
you'd
just
like
leave it
to
as
see.
a teaser right now.
No, I think people are going to have questions about what that is. But you've had this idea from day one that you and I have been talking about that, because when I remember specifically asking you, I said, Phil, what's your vision for the library? It's such an important role on campus.
Thank you.
And you said it needs to be more than a library. It's got to be an active learning center where community, students, faculty, staff, all kind of coalesce and share this thing we call knowledge and information. Tell us a little bit about
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. Thanks. It comes from a number of different factors. Brian alluded to the reality that we have now, that things are changing really quickly. And I mean, that's just how it is in life in general. Anyway, it crosses your plate all the time. It crosses my plate all the time as a library director. Ironically, I got into the field. I'm thinking back now over the 33 years, and what I really loved about it is that it's a people job. It's not really a book job. It's a people job. But that translates now into this idea of an active space. So what we've got is very visible. There's lots of windows around the library. We're centrally located. It's a pass-through, so people are walking through our space all day already. Anyway, and after I got here, I started to see this idea of, we've got all these great student services all over campus, but they're in disparate locations with different hours. It's hard for me to know sometimes when a student comes in and says, "Oh, is this service open?" What I do is I say, "I don't know. Let's walk down and find out." Right. Yeah. But what would be ideal for our campus and our community is we start to merge those services into the great space that the library occupies now, right? We start to cut back on our physical collection. We're at about 70,000 physical books right now. I've got over 700,000 electronic books. I've got over 190 article and information databases with access to millions of articles.
Hard.
Right. We're moving, right? We got to accommodate our students who, A, aren't coming here, B, don't want to pay for the price of gas, which I understand, especially if they're coming from other parts of the county, or C, are never coming here as online students. So pulling together student services, providing things available electronically, having consistent hours. Right?
So Phil, how do you balance, the traditionalists like myself? Phil, I love my hard copy books. I want that size 20 font in there so I can read it.
There's a big part of me that's a traditionalist like that. Absolutely.
And then you get the new students are like, why do we have books? So how do you balance this out on both of you, for both of you? Brian, how do we balance the need for technology with the need for still, that foundational experience that students at all ages?
I will tell you really quickly. I know you asked Brian. I'm going to cut you off for just a second. I promise it won't be long. As long as I've been in this game, it's always about information. It's not about books. I love them. They're great. They look good in the house. They're not easy to move. You're moving, right?
Yeah.
They're heavy.
No, they're not.
No, but it's always about information. How do I get it into somebody's hand in a digestible format? Yeah. So,
mentioning moving, yes, the smaller the box, the better you're on.
The better.
I do know that with those books, but we're it's always changing with us and trying to get the technology and get the resources to the students. We do a good job here at this school. We've been talking to some people lately that are really surprised about how much we have here for our students to access. Because your library, especially, you have all those books, but you have computers too. So there's computers spread out in there. Your learning services has a little bit. We've got labs everywhere. So we've got, we try to provide as much access. I know, obviously, you mentioned the students that don't come to campus. Those do get a little harder. And, if they're going to take online classes, they have to provide, they have to have some technology, but we have to provide a lot of the resources, the access to that library. The access to the network shares that they need to help make sure they can get onto D2L. So there's a lot of
one of the great things our departments do together is getting that off-campus access.
So let me ask about format. That access piece for both of you, because I know that both departments, IT and the library, work hand in glove in terms of how we provide those services. To that individual in the community that says, well, I can't attend college because I don't have the resources, so I can't make that leap into the educational journey because I'm not equipped. Let's talk a little bit about access and all the things that are offered, not just on at the library, but also on the tech side, because we have computers, we have labs. And if you could, I want you both to kind of talk about this project that we will be hopefully opening soon with the 2 new rooms that we are adding with all the technology that people need to have good group focus sessions. So Phil, you're going to be managing those areas, but Brian, you've been leading the charge on everything that goes in those rooms. Let's talk about that project, because that's a micro glimpse into what's going to happen with the campus as we think about the broader facilities usage of our buildings. Let's talk a little about that project, what led to it and where we're at now with it.
Would you like to start, or shall I start on this one?
I'll let you start.
Okay, well, we're talking about, I want to make sure I'm talking about the right thing here with you. We're talking about the spaces down the corridor
hall.
here
That's right, down the hall.
that are under construction right now.
Yes.
Correct. Good. Okay, make sure I'm on the right page. Sometimes I'm not. So, yet another place for students to gather to play with technology. I know you and I we will sit at some point and decide what specifically is going in there. I have a sneaking suspicion it's going to include large touch screens.
That's right.
Yes. Right. So we'll get those in there, but I like to think of our spaces. In fact, the study rooms I have now in the library, that's not limited to campus personnel only, right? So these are places folks can come in and use the library. I will say what I say about everything with the library. It's not mine. I just happen to manage it for you. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to getting equipment in there that's cutting edge kind of stuff that people are going to need, and that's where I'll lean on Brian and his team. And we'll just make more space available.
And if I could, for those that are listening to, again, our inaugural podcast, All Things BC Related, one of the things that we talked about in creating those additional spaces is so that students, faculty, staff, and community, for the community members listening to this, community spaces where people can come and do group work. One of the things that we have, collaboration, working with one another. There's a lot of powerful tools that are out there, like artificial intelligence, we'll talk about later, but at the end of the day, the thing that matters most are people skills, and we want to be able to it not only provide a space where people can do that, but give them all the tools that they need to be successful as they work on team projprojects. And it's so much more than just the students.
Soft skills, how key that is with our graduates.
And those two rooms are going to be real key at group, bringing the technology and the group together, because we're looking at furniture that allows multiple students to get in there together around the display. So yes, we are doing touchscreens display
projects and things like that.
So those rooms are intended to they're going to have large touch screens on them. They're going to have computers built into them. So a student who walks in and has nothing can still turn it on and access D2L. They can access the internet. They can do their research. They can use it for that. They can do the things they need to do, but they will also have connections where if they come in with their own laptop and they're working on a group and they're building their presentation as a group or even as an individual, they can still put it up. They can practice. They can use the screen with their group to practice as if it's in the classroom on the large screen. They can run their PowerPoints. They can, watch their videos, whatever they need to do their editing at the same time they're practicing, study. And because of them being their individual rooms, they're being built such so that they'll have enough privacy that they can do it without interruption. Obviously there'll still be some visual because of glass, but they won't have all the noise around them, so they can really practice and work and learn. And I think they're going to be really great spaces. And then we're looking forward to getting those up. Equipment has been ordered for them. It's not here yet, but they are coming along.
I think that the target is that these will be available at some point over the late summer, but for sure into the fall semester, fall 24. But I really commend the two departments again for not just working on things that are happening in the library, but creating more of these kinds of spaces where, to your point, Brian, even the furniture has been thought of in terms of how we get people to work in teams, get people to work in groups, understanding group dynamics, so that when students graduate, and again, these are open to more than just the students, but community members, when folks leave our doors, we want them to make sure that we are producing the highest caliber of graduate that can not only do the technical things, but also understand how to work well with one another, how to do all the things that employers are looking for in great employees and team members that they want to add to their area. So we want everybody to be successful, not just the student, but also the people that are on the receiving end as potential employers. So I wanted to thank you both on those items, because it's going to include not just the technology, but how we actually encourage congregation of people to work with one another.
Yeah, good stuff. Everybody wins when we win on this one, right? The employers get the employees they need. College looks good. We're educating people with the skills they need to succeed. It's awesome.
Let me segue a little bit into a different part of the conversation for today. We talked a little bit about technology. We talked a little bit about library. We talked about the partnerships that you both have going in different areas that ultimately end up connecting to better services for our students and our community. Tell me a little bit about what you both enjoy. Brian, you've been here for many, many years. You literally grew up on campus. And Phil, you and I have been recent transplants to the organization. But what do you enjoy the most about being at Brazosport College, and what do potential students or students that are out there who don't get to come on campus as much, what do you think they should know about what you enjoy the most about being here?
There's a lot. Like I said, being my alma mater, there was, I chose this school a long time ago to come here, and have really enjoyed everything. It's been, there's great resources in our, our library. We do have a great library. I, work hard to make sure that our department is providing resources and services they need. And that goes throughout the entire campus. The students can come on this campus and find what they need and get the help they need. We have very friendly staff here, and they are very helpful staff. And and as we move forward, I know we want to make sure that we continue that, and that the school, I know, is getting, as things change and times changes, the school changes with that and seems to do what it can to keep up with those things. It's hard. You obviously can't ever stay on top of it, at the very top, because we'll never stop construction, or we'd never stop trying to figure out the next thing, but we have to stop and work with it. But it's always, but we do a great job of keeping up, not getting behind, and really helping our students. And like I said, we have great faculty here and great staff that really work to help students achieve their goals. And then the last piece of it for us is, for IT is, so we're one of the biggest departments of putting the work together for commencement, which is coming up very soon. And so it's always fun too. At that point, I love seeing it. Not that I hate to see them go, but I love to see that they're going, because that means they were successful. And to see that, and to see how much it's grown over the years, how much of the DAC is now graduates versus room for the guests. It's great to see that. Like I said, I hate to see them go, but it's good. It's very good that they've accomplished their goals, and I love seeing that.
And for our community viewers who don't live all things BC 24/7 the way we do, commencement is like our Super Bowl. I mean, that's the day of the year that everybody works towards. That's the day of the year that comes to fruition for all of our faculty, all of our staff. It's a long 2 days of work. You guys are instrumental in putting that together, but what a day it is when we get to see the graduates walk across. It's really the reason why we all show up. It's the cathedral that we show up to build.
It's a wonderful day.
Phil, what about you? What do you enjoy about being on campus?
Well, it's interesting. And your question, what I went, not because I don't enjoy things about campus, but you had framed it in what about people who aren't here on campus, and what do they enjoy about it? And first of all, I want to say thank you, Brian, for the kind words about the library, and right back at you. The relationship between our departments is awesome. If I had to tell somebody who wasn't on campus but who was taking classes here, again, it would go back to the people and how a good, hardworking staff that cares about students and goes the extra mile for students. And that may not always be apparent when you're far away because you're not having I'm not face to face with that person, right? But I think the folks who are off campus will realize that the service is going to remain at a high level. But you do miss out on that human connection, right? And,
so speaking of human connection, so one of the things that I appreciate, and I've been here starting my third year, but something that I picked up on early on is the availability of decision makers, staff members, faculty to our students and to our community. So many of our campus leaders have open door policies, from myself down to our VPs, to the deans, to everybody who works on campus. But you are all, Brian, you serve as the CIO, Chief Information Officer. Bill, you're the director of the library. And students, I see you guys interacting with students all the time. Well, what kind of benefit do you think that brings to students when they get to talk to you, not just about the things that what you do in your job, but who you are as a human being? What do you think that brings to the service component of how we work with our students?
You mind if I jump in on that one?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. I'd arm wrestle you if you didn't want me to. So actually, that's a big one for me, Dr. Solis. And the reason is I have always, and I tell my staff this, I have always envisioned the interactions in the library that I might get one shot with somebody, because libraries are still intimidating and kind of scary to people, right? Students say one of two things to me when they ask a question. One, I'm sorry to bother you. Then they ask my question. Two, I have a really dumb question. Then they ask their question. And I want to let's get rid of that. Let's assuage that. Let's get that out of your head, erase that. So I always approach it, and I tell my staff, approach it like this might be your only shot. If we don't get it right, they might not come back. Right?
But what's interesting, Bill, is how many of our departments and how many of our people on campus have that ethos.
Yeah, I agree.
When you see someone wandering around campus, I see people, hey, how are you? Hello.
And what a joy it is, though, to interact with our students. And thinking back, it's been about 1,000 years since I was an undergraduate, but thinking back to how important that was to me when an instructor or a staff member reached out to me to provide that one-on-one customer service of, yes, I matter, right? Because students leave our institutions sometimes because they feel as though they don't matter.
They're not connected. Right? And I was looking at we get all kinds of reports and data and information about the college from the state, from the region. There's just tons of information.
Just finished my iPads. So
iPads, and that's for those of you listening, the iPads is a complicated report that we got to submit every year. Phil enjoys submitting all that data on a yearly basis, but it's a complicated report that we have to submit to for national data databases that talks about who we are. But there's last week I was sitting down and I get this text message early in the morning. They're like, hey, check out this website. So I go to the website, and it is the niche website, which is, it's kind of like a Yelp for organizations that are not, in the food service industry. Okay. And what it does is it has Brazosport College listed as the #1 community college or college in the state of Texas.
Okay, yeah, Baba.
For 24, we just got that, and we've been at the top of that list for a long time. But 24, we're the #1 in the state, number 22 in the country. Okay. And I was looking at the data and the metric. Well, what got us to that #1 rating, and how did this work? And a big part of it was the service piece. Students rave about our service. Yeah, not surprising for those of us that are here, and it's something that we take great pride in. But I've seen students who are looking for things like help with the help desk, which helps them with all things IT related. But I think it's a big part of what makes us unique as a college. And I think it's something that students and our community really enjoy about Brazosport College in terms of the kind of service we provide.
My staff and I walk people down to your operation a lot for help. And the folks out on those front desks are 100 out of 100 times are like, come on and what can
they are. We have a great help desk staff. Our help desk, they're friendly, they're knowledgeable. And technology
not
is
scary, all that.
Because technology is very intimidating for all of the ages, especially our older students. I mean, BC has a lot of older students here, and they come in and they don't know what to do. I mean, we have
an older person. I prefer non-traditional.
I was just going to
non-traditional,
someone over the age of 25.
Non-traditional students, but but we have the whole variety from the entire community. So they come in and we see them at the help desk, and it's funny. Because you get to see some of the same ones over and over again, but we don't mind. We love to help them.
Don't sell yourself short either, because I think we've all been in organizations where IT is kind of this like wall that is you feel like you're not supposed to be down there asking questions. So that's a real difference.
Don't touch the IT nerds. Leave them alone.
Well, at some point, the IT nerds, and we mean that as a term of endearment, became the cool kids on campus, right? Because now we can't do anything unless the IT is supporting that. You talked about things that can be intimidating for students and for people that are in the higher education space. I want to kind of circle back to departmental goals and visions so that people can know a little bit more about what you're working on. First part of the question is, what are your current goals for your departments? What do you envision happening over the next several years? But the other part to that question are the challenges. What are some of the challenges with what you're working on? So, Ryan, let's hear from you on that.
So, one of our biggest goals, actually, we just accomplished. Now it's the moving forward. Now is our new student information system. We had a student information system that was older than me, and it was
literally was like
it was from the late. It was very non-traditional, and so we brought ourselves up. And that's not an easy task when you're talking about a computer system. You get new software. You hear Microsoft, and everybody releases new software sometimes twice a year, and we're talking about something we haven't replaced in 50 years. That was no small task. It's taken us years to accomplish that. So we've got that for students, to help students moving forward. But, there's a lot. So now that we're finishing that up and making that work well for students, but we've got, things. AI is a big topic right now. We're doing a lot of work with that. We are really working. We've started off with the college a few years ago received the Title V grant. And we're using that to start updating classrooms. So we're trying to bring classrooms up from chalkboards and chalk to, in a few places, to touch screens and more interaction. We've got cameras in classrooms now, so that we can start working with the VPs and the deans. We're wanting to be able to offer hybrid classes. If we want to do a class that's in person but also online, you got to have a classroom that can support that. So we're having to put in the technology. We've had to upgrade our network to support that kind of stuff. So our goals right now are moving us forward, really working on in the next few years to bring more technology into our classrooms, help our faculty, the changing technologies, so that we can be up to speed on things and keep moving forward. And, because that's the work that a lot of these students are going to look for or transfer to. If they're going to transfer to a university, they don't want to leave here and not understand what these things are. Or, we want to make sure that we're, I'd like to be as far ahead of the game as we can on it. But, at least so then they go off to university, they're like, oh, yeah, I feel comfortable going into the study room with these students I just met for the first time ever, and having study and knowing how to use the technology and working with them and those types of skills.
And I suspect, Brian, and I'm not just tooting our own horn here, the technology and the kinds of tools that we bring to bear with our students, I think, rival at least any of the other colleges in the state, but also at the university level. I think our students leave our doors well prepared, not just for the job placement part of what their goals are, but also for those who are going to transfer to the university. I think that they get all the tools and skills that they need here at a really great price. And Brian, to your point on that project where we were doing that, it was about a 4-year lift on converting that very much older system to a modernized system. Shout out to our board members, our board of regents for supporting that project. That was no easy lift, and I want to thank the board. I want to thank you guys for putting the yeoman's work into making that happen. Phil, what's on the horizon for the library? What are your goals? What are you going to do? And also, what challenges do you envision?
Great question. So again, going back to the idea of that a shared active learning space, I kind of talked about it a little, but that again what else goes in the so the library is changing. What else would go in that space that would be ideal for learning activities? And that could be other partners on campus moving into our space. Do
you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, one in particular is Dr. April Sikorsky, who runs our writing center. She and I have been chatting about this for 2 years, and we had a great session with the master planners a couple of weeks ago, where we talked about, hey, where would it go and how would it look? And, we both have this wonderful vision of student comes in, student asks for help doing research. We're done with the reference transaction. We've got them with their articles and all that kind of stuff. And we go, by the way, writing center's right up here. Let us walk you to their doorstep and you can make an appointment with a consultant who can help you write your paper.
So the idea there is that a student comes in for help with resources and information, but they also get in your shop, which would be, would be located here in the Active Learning Center, access to these writing consultants who teach you how to write, how to do it well, how to just excel in your classes.
And just this last week, I worked with my staff and I all assigned them a small one-pager. Tell me what other academic libraries are doing as far as virtual reality. What are they doing as far as first-year experience? What are they doing as far as tutoring? What are they doing as far as a writing center? What are they doing with traditional study spaces? So that we can pull any campus partner that might be ideal who wants to play with us, because we want to play with everybody. That's what librarians, we're collaborative. We want to have these relationships. Can we get them into the space? Can we have shared hours and expertise? So it's one-stop shopping for our students who are on campus here, right? It's an easy thing. Now, the challenge is getting all of those pieces to move and to get into the space. Do we have the space, and how would that work, right? It's a heavy lift. It can't be done in a week.
It can't, So how do you envision continuing to work with IT? Because like I said, you guys have a great working relationship.
Yeah, we're super fortunate, right? Because we rely on them for so much of what we do.
So how's that going to work in the future with this active learning?
Well, certainly, though, they're on our radar, right? And I try to make sure I'm either meeting with Charles and Brian or bothering them a lot so that they're aware of what's going on, right? So that they can come back. And we got a great one going on right now. In fact, Natalie, kudos to her. She sent me an email last night showing me the progress of the new student ID card system and how we're working on that. So I met with Brian here and Charles, who's over there and observing us today. He's off. He's our omniscient. He was our omniscient narrator yesterday, which was great. He would say stuff, and we go, "Ooh, that's a good idea." But I met with both of them. What was it, last week? And I said, "Look, I need a couple of your people to help me understand the hardware and software of this new student ID card system I need to purchase, so we have a better system for the campus." And they dedicated 2 of their staffers to me. We are at the point now where it's on Brian's desk for sign off. Essentially, it looks like all of the other stuff is available. So your last review of that, then it happens. So this is how we do things to make sure they're aware of the changes that we're making in the library, right? Or Active Learning Center, whatever this thing is going to be called.
So Phil, so for both your departments, Brian, how much of what you're doing in terms of planning for the future, shaping vision, thinking about the kinds of things that students and community are going to need, how much of that is shaped by feedback you get from your customers, so to speak, the people that come and use your services, whether that be a student, faculty, staff, or community member? How much vision is being built into the feedback you get from the users that are at the forefront of your services?
We get a lot of feedback. While we support everybody, faculty, staff, students, we do have support. We get probably the most feedback from our faculty and staff, because those are the ones that, know what they need for their students. We do what we can, but we try to make, appropriate changes, like I said, with classrooms, with things like that. We're trying to bring ideas. If they come with ideas or something, we're real good with meeting with other schools. We also try to see what other schools are doing related to that too. and how do other schools maybe handle some of those things that students are asking for or that faculty and staff are looking for. So, with the CIO consortium here within the state, we meet regularly and we have all these conversations about this and hear how other schools are doing it. So we get to, so I have other people doing these same fights we are, doing these same, trying to come up with these same ideas and all these things with the, that we're working on, and we put those together. And then I have a great staff that's very creative. And so we'll take ideas and start looking at them. And, I'll have somebody come into my office and say, hey, a student came by the other day and asked, why don't we do this? And we'll be like, okay, let's see if we can. It doesn't always work. It may not always be possible for any number of reasons, but we try to listen to what they need and see what we can do to provide what they need.
Great response. Well, as we move into the tail end of you get the pun on that one,
yeah,
right? The tail end.
The tail end.
As the Gators.
Sorry, I'm a little slow. Okay, got it. All right.
He's lagging into the water.
That's it. Yeah. Tail end of the
We're
podcast
headed towards
here.
shallower waters.
Let me ask this. So a lot of folks, at least on the education side, we don't grow up saying, well, I want to be a college president, or I'm going to be a director of a library, or I'm going to be the chief information officers. But these are really great careers in higher education. What advice would you give students that may be listening to this podcast and are listening and learning to some of the things that you're saying about, your projects, what's on the horizon, what has gotten you here? What advice would you give them about maybe considering a role in either library services, Phil, or in your case, Brian, the world of IT?
Oh, IT, there is so much, because it changes so fast. You've got to be wanting to, to keep up with that. You've got to have a big initiative to go out and look and study and research. And, we've got a new bachelor's program coming on here in the fall for computer science. So I'm really looking forward to the things that program is going to bring. But outside of with technology, outside of just your schooling as well, there are so many certificates, there's so many, different little trainings and stuff out there that you have to really keep up with it and pay attention to what's going on, what's changing in this world, because if we don't, faculty will hear about it, and especially in our world, they'll hear about it and they'll want it. And, we as the IT department don't want to always be going, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. We want to be there and be prepared to discuss that. And so, you've got to have your folks, if you want to get in the IT industry, you've got to be prepared to constantly learn and study and be prepared to change.
Very good. Phil, what about on your end? What advice would you have?
While I'm listening to Brian's good answer, things are moving at such a high rate of speed, and that seems to only accelerate right over the last couple of years. So I guess I'll go back to what I've always gone to in my profession is the only timely thing is I'll say, get good with AI, first of all.
Yeah.
But secondly, I've always told younger folks who are getting into the profession, be open, be curious, and most of all, remember, it's a people business that we're in. Machines are going to come and go. Software is going to come and go. It's really about the human connection and the touch we make that makes differences in lives. Yeah. So be okay. And I say that particularly to librarians because our field tends to attract bookworm types who are like, ooh, I don't really want to have to talk to people. This would be a great job. And this is the wrong profession to get into if you don't want to talk to people.
Especially if they're coming to work for you.
Absolutely.
You're people driven and
you don't have a choice.
That's right.
I won't shut up anyway, so you have to listen to me all day long. So get okay with that.
As we get to the closing part of our inaugural podcast, I want to just first and foremost thank you for not just being here today and being a really great guest, but for all that you do at our institution, for always having students at the forefront, for always being available. I know that if anybody who's out there as a student listening to this and says, hey, I'm interested in IT, I'm going to call Mr. Commons, or I'm interested in the library, I'm going to call Mr. Phil, you guys will gladly take that call, answer that email, meet with them in person. That's just who we are as part of our ethos here at Brazosport College. But I'm going to close with this question because I think that this is one of these deeper dives. And we talked at the beginning of the podcast that the ideas on this podcast are going to be sharp as a gator's tooth. And I wanted to close out with, in the age of information, right? We have access to so much information on our phones, on our computers, on our devices. Everything that we do is somewhere, right? It's tracked somewhere. How do we convert information to knowledge, Phil? I mean, not an easy question, but how do we take what people have access to and really convert that into what our goal is at the end of the
create
day
knowledge.
is to create knowledge and to
knowledge.
teach people so that they learn in a great space. What does that mean to Phil Roche?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I have a fully formed answer, but I will say this, that one of the things we do in the library world is we preach to students the iterative process with knowledge. So in other words, if you have a question and you look it up, and you notice now with a standard Google search, AI does its little thing and comes up with the
Magic
answer.
behind the scenes.
But the way we encourage students to chase reliable data, which I think can translate to knowledge once the student digests that and produces their scholarship, is that you go through this process in a thorough and thoughtful manner. In other words, I'm not going to grab the top 3 Google results I get.
Right.
If I find something and I'm unfamiliar with that mode of description about a thing or a fact, it's new to me, maybe I'm going to check it in multiple sources, right? So that I'm really doing my scholarship, and that requires work. Right. And oftentimes students will say, this college thing is hard. And I don't mean to be dismissive, but my response is yes, by design. Because the thing you get at the end is that ability to be mindful about how you go through your life and produce a better world and a better life.
We teach people to learn always.
And to
absolutely.
question,
Lifelong learning,
right? To be curious and question, why would someone do this? That's an act or a behavior of some sort that's unfamiliar to what I might do in my life. So continue to do the work if you want to get to what's really as close to the truth as you can. Right?
You bring up something really important to me, Phil. I got into trouble once, and it's not the first time, won't be
I've
the
gotten
last.
into trouble
But I know, I get the sense. But we were having a very similar conversation about what it means to be educated and working in higher learning and being part of the service that we bring to students so that they can learn to be better human beings, right? And one of the things that was in that discussion was I said, look, at our institutions, we should always strive. It needs to be at the foremost thing that we do is to ensure a safe environment. But in that space, I refer to the context of a physically safe environment. We have campus police, we have safety protocols, all the things that go into making sure that when people come to Brazosport College, they are safe physically. But intellectually, I believe strongly that we should, be threatened intellectually every single day.
Correct.
That's how new ideas get generated. That's how knowledge comes to the forefront. I think that's where the difference happens between having access to information and getting really people to understand and to learn what is in that space. This idea,
supportive environment to take those risks.
That's right. To take those risks where you can question. I loved what you said. Learn to be inquisitive. It is such a powerful trait to have in this day and age where you have access to not just lots of information, but there's a lot of useless information out there. You get all kinds of disinformation, misinformation, clickbait. I mean, the list goes on and on. How do we produce graduates that really understand the space in a different way? And that's our goal. That's what our faculty do. That's what happens in our classrooms. I would encourage anybody who's looking at the best, and I say that with all the pride that we have at the institution, best educational experience at a college, it's at Brazosport College. And it's because we have amazing team members, amazing faculty members. And Brian, I'm going to close with you on the last side. And we talked about converting information to knowledge. How do we keep the human side of who we are as people when we're embedded with all things technology? We're going deeper down the rabbit hole with AI. We've got social media. We've got access to all this information. How do we keep our humanity in an age of technology?
Well, one of the best things that I tell my daughter and others is put down that technology.
Interesting. Coming from the IT guy, right?
You need to put down the technology is great, and it does let you socialize, and it gets you. I mean, there is a lot you could learn. There's a lot because you have access now. Whereas we used to read in an encyclopedia or things like that. About things overseas. Well, now you can watch videos and you can interact with live with people overseas and learn things. So there's a lot you can learn with it, but using it in that way, and using it as a learning tool, but putting it down too, and just being in the human world around you. While yes, you can't necessarily interact with exchange students in China. That may be fun sometimes, but sometimes it's nice to just be in your own little world.
Talk about it with a real life human being, right? Not just an avatar. So much is happening in the world of higher education. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for all that you do and all that you do for our students. We are really blessed as an institution to have tremendous resources, great leadership from our board, great support in our community. But at the end of the day, to some of the discussions that we had earlier, it's about our people and how we serve the people that come to us as a college. So I want to thank you for everything that you do. For our viewing audience, we're going to be bringing more of these really great conversations, all things BC related in the future. We look forward to seeing you here. And for now, we are signing off. I am Dr. Vincent Solis, the host of the Chomp Talk podcast. And with that said, laters Gators.